Hi, Dr. Shmala here. Today we start with chapter number 7, that is passive movement. Our learning objectives: what is passive movement, classification of passive movement, and then detailed discussion about principle and effect and uses of the passive movement types. What is passive movement? Passive means by external means. So we can define it as these movements are produced by an external force during muscular inactivity or when range of motion is reduced for any cause. Indications: in acute inflamed tissues where active movement is painful, in comatose, paralytic, or complete bedridden patients, we use passive movements, and in muscle re education, as a first step, we use passive movement. What are goals and uses of passive movement? Passive movement maintain joint and connective tissue mobility, maintain the physiological properties of the muscle like extensibility, elasticity, etc., and minimize the formation of the contracture. Assist circulation and enhance synovial movement and diffusion of materials in the joint. Besides this, passive movement also maintain range of motion and prevent formation of the adhesions. Maintain the patient's awareness of movements by stimulating the kinesthetic receptors. Decrease or inhibit pain. Precautions and contraindications. Immediately after acute tears, fractures, and surgery. This is totally contraindicated if there are signs of too much effusion or swelling like DVT, deep venous thrombosis, then it's too contraindicated. Severe, sharp, and acute joint pain. When joint range of motion is disrupted to the healing process, then you can't use passive movement. When bony plaque limits joint motions. Acute infection around or in the joint like arthritis. In the case of increased joints hypermobility or hematoma, don't use passive movement. First treat cause, then come towards your plan. What are the limitations of the PROM, passive range of motion? Passive range of motion will not prevent muscular atrophy, will not increase muscle strength and endurance, and will not assist circulation as active exercise. However, passive movement maintain range of motion. Now come towards classification of passive movement. Relaxed passive movements including accessory movements and passive manual mobilization techniques, further divided into three types: mobilization of joints, manipulation of joints, and then controlled sustained stretching. One by one, we look at these definitions. Relaxed passive movements. These are the movements performed accurately and smoothly by the physiotherapist. For that purpose, a knowledge of anatomy of the joint is required. The movements are performed in the same range and direction as active movements. Joint is moved through the existing free range and within the limit of the pain. Don't cross pain limits. Always remain within the limits of the pain. Accessory movements. These occur as part of any normal joint movements but may be limited or absent in abnormal joint conditions. They consist of gliding or rotational movements which cannot be performed in isolation as a voluntary movement but can be isolated by the physiotherapist. So we can say that accessory movements, these are the movements that are separated only by the physiotherapist. B. Passive manual mobilization techniques. Mobilization of the joints. These are usually small, repetitive, rhythmical, oscillatory, localized, accessory, or functional movements performed by the physiotherapist in various amplitude within the available range and under the patient control. They can be done very gently or quite strongly. They are graded according to the part of the available range in which they are performed. What is the manipulation of the joints? Manipulations of the joints performed by the physiotherapist. These are accurately localized, single, quick, decisive movements of the small amplitude and high velocity completed before the patient can stop it. So, um, mobilization and you can say manipulations are performed under very skilled physiotherapist. Manipulation of the joints performed by surgeon or physician. Basically, movements are performed under anesthesia by a surgeon or physician to gain further range. The increase in movement must be maintained by the physiotherapist. Controlled, sustained stretching of the tightened structures. Passive stretching of the muscles and other soft tissues can be given to increase range of movement. Movement can be gained by stretching adhesions in these structures or by lengthening the muscles due to inhibition of the tendon protective reflexes. So, um, basically, we use passive stretching of the muscles to increase range of movement. Now we discuss principles of giving relaxed passive movement under following headings. Relaxation. Relaxation. In relaxation, a brief explanation what to happen is given to the patient, who is then taught to relax voluntarily, except in the cases of flaccid paralysis when this is unnecessary. The selection of a suitable starting position ensures comfort and support, and the bearing of the physiotherapist will do much to inspire confidence and cooperation in maintaining relaxation through the movement. Fixation. Where the movement is limited to a specific joint, the bone which lies proximal to it is fixed by the physiotherapist as close to the joint line as possible to ensure that movement is localized to that joint. Otherwise, any decrease in the normal range is readily masked by the compensating movements occurring at other joints in the vicinity. So, fixation is very important, and it is done by, you can say, by physiotherapists as close to the joint line. Sport. Full and comfortable support is given to the part to be moved so that patient has confidence and will remain relaxed. Physiotherapist grasps the part firmly but comfortably in her hand, or it may be supported by axial suspension in the slings. Axial suspension is particularly useful for trunk or heavy limbs as it frees the physiotherapist's hand to assist fixation and to perform the movement. So the physiotherapist's stance must be firm and comfortable. When standing, her feet are apart and placed in the line of movement. Traction. Many joints allow the articular surfaces to be drawn apart by the traction. Traction means drawing apart, which is always given in the long axis of the joint. The fixation of the bone proximal to the joint provide an opposing force to a sustained pull on the distal bone. Traction is thought to facilitate the movement by reducing intra-articular friction. Range. Range of movement is as full as the condition of the joints permits without eliciting pain or spasm in the surrounding muscles. In normal joints, slightly overpressure can be given to ensure full range, but in flawed joints, care is needed to avoid taking the movements beyond the normal anatomical limits. As one reason for giving full range movement is to maintain the extensibility of the muscles which pass over the joints. Special consideration must be given to the muscle which pass over two or more joints. Muscle must be progressively extended over each joint until they are finally extended to their normal length over all the joints simultaneously. For example, the quadriceps are fully extended when the hip joint is extended with the knee flexed. Speed and duration. As it is essential that relaxation must be maintained throughout the movement, the speed must be uniform, fairly slow, and rhythmical. The number of times the movement is performed basically depend upon the purpose for which it is used. So we discuss further these topics in coming chapters. What are the effects and uses of the passive movement? ADN formation is prevented and pre- prevent present full range of motion maintained. One's passive movement, well given and frequent interval, is sufficient for this purpose, but the usual practice is to put the joints through two movements twice daily. So remember that joint must be moved two times daily. When active movement is impossible because of the muscular inefficiency, these movements may help to preserve the memory of the movement pattern. By, by how? By basically by stimulating the receptor of kinesthetic sense. When full range active movement is impossible, extensibility of the muscle is maintained, and then we can say adaptive shortening is prevented. Further, venous and lymphatic return may be assisted slightly by mechanical pressure and by stretching of the thin walled vessels which pass across the joint movement. Relatively quick, rhythmical, and continuous passive movements are required to produce this effect. They are used in conjunction with elevation of the part to relieve edema when the patient is unable or unwilling to perform sufficient active exercises. The rhythm of the continued passive movements can have a soothing effect and can induce further relaxation and sleep. They may be tried in training relaxation, and if successful, we can say movement is made impeccably and progressively slower as the patient relaxes. Now, what is the principles of giving accessory movements? The basic principle of relaxation and fixation apply to the accessory movement as to relaxed passive movements. Same as relaxed passive movement. Full and comfortable support is given and range of movement is as full as the condition of the joint permits. They are comparatively small movements. As you know, accessory movements they are separated by patient, but they can be isolated by physiotherapist. Effect and uses of accessory movements. Accessory movements contribute to the normal function of the joint in which they take place or that of the adjacent joints. In abnormal joint conditions, there may be limitation of these movements due to loss of full active range caused by stiffness of joints from contractures of the soft tissues, adhesion formation, or muscular inefficiency. So, SSC movements are performed by the physiotherapist to increase lost range of movement and to maintain joint mobility. Hence, they form an important part of the treatment of the patient who is unable to perform normal active movement. So, these are the factor and uses of accessory movements. Principles of giving manual mobilization and manipulations. Basically, these techniques together with their effect and uses convey a very wide field which is beyond, which is not discussed in this book. We discuss these techniques further in um, upcoming lectures. Manipulations performed by surgeon or physicians are usually given under general or local anesthesia, basically which eliminates pain and protective spasm, allow the use of the greater force. Even well-established adherence can be broken down, but when these are numerous, it is useful to regain full range progressively by a series of manipulation to avoid excessive trauma and mark exudation. Maximum effort on the part of the patient and physiotherapist must be exerted after manipulation to maintain the range of movement gained at each session. Otherwise, fibrous deposits from the inevitable exudation will form new adhesions. So, there is a very important role of physiotherapist that if manipulations is performed by surgeon, then it is the duty or responsibility of the physiotherapist to maintain the range of motion after manipulation under anesthesia. Manipulation, manual mobilization techniques, classification, control sustained stretching, passive stretching to increase range of motion, stretching adherence, lengthen muscles due to inhibition of the protective reflexes, control sustained stretching is used to overcome spasticity, overcome resistance of the shortened ligament. Mobilization of mind, small petty movements performed accurately in the range and direction of the movements. And manipulation, as you know, performed by physiotherapist and by surgeon under anesthesia. Principles of giving control, sustained stretching of the tightened structures. The patient is comfortably and supported and as relaxed as possible in an appropriate position. With suitable fixation, the part is grasped by the physiotherapist and moving in such a way that sustained stretch can be applied to the contracted structure for a period of time within a functional pattern of movement. Mechanical means can be used, for example, turnbuckle plaster. Effect and uses of controlled sustained stretching. Controlled sustained stretching, basically steady and sustained stretching, may be used to overcome spasticity pattern of the limbs. For example, a hemiplegic patient, the slow stretch produces a relaxation and then lengthening of the muscle. A steady and prolonged passive stretch basically overcome the resistance of the shortened ligaments, fascia and fibrous sheaths of the muscle, as for example in controlled sustained stretching and progressive splintage of the talipes equinovarus. It is a deformity of the foot, talipes equinovarus, and it is basically mostly congenital. And um, series of plaster casting are applied in almost with 6 weeks gap, um, and further in talipes equinovarus, passive stretching is also performed by the physiotherapist to maintain the range of motion. Controls sustained stretching of the tightened structure, basically passive stretching of the muscle and the nerve can be given to increase range of motion. This is the basic principle of that control sustained stretching. And we can say what are the fact and uses of control sustained stretching. Basically it is used in hemiplegic patient. And what is hemiplegia? Basically hemiplegia is, you can say, passes of the one half side of body. Hemi means one side, means if it involves patients one upper limb and one lower limb. Similarly, a steady and prolonged passive stretch basically overcome the resistance of shortened ligament, fascia and fibrous sheaths. Thank you. Hopefully you like it. Thank you again.